Welcome to today's show, Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, passionate, inspirational speaker, author, poet, and entrepreneur. Welcome to Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm so grateful that you joined me today. I want to give a great big shout out and thank you to all of you listening today all around the world. I'm delighted and so grateful that you tuned in. I sure hope you're enjoying a fabulous day today and that you're having a fantastic week, because you know what? In the grand song of the universe, life is very, very precious. It's also very short and sweet. So I hope you're making a difference in your own life, because when you do, you also make a difference in somebody else's life. Now, a lot of folks really want their life to count for something, but they don't know how to do that. Or it seems so big and overwhelming, they don't know how or where to begin. So they ask me, Dr. Gloria, how do you do that? How do you make your life count? Well, it's really very simple, very simple. You make your life count day by day, step by step, moment by moment, smile by smile, every single day, 365, 24/7. You make your life count by being there for someone who needs the sweet fragrance of your presence, by the simple loving things you do for someone, by being an uplifter, being an encourager, by taking a walk with someone you love, by making dinner or breakfast, or helping your kids with their homework, or maybe you buy a beautiful bouquet of flowers, not because it's a special occasion like a birthday or anniversary, but you buy flowers because, just because. Maybe you have a wonderful garden and you share a basket of tomatoes or cucumbers from your garden with your neighbor, right? Or maybe you visit your mom, you hold her hand, you press your hand to her cheek, even if she no longer knows your name. Now, after I've devoted a full day of teaching or facilitating a retreat or just doing way too much outside in the yard, my sweet husband will rub my legs or my feet, or sometimes even runs a nice warm bath for me, just because. Can I tell you something? That makes a huge difference in my life. You can make a difference simply by being grateful for who you are, being grateful for whose you are, and by making sure that you live your purpose and give your gifts to the world. Today, I want to share with you about someone who lived his purpose, someone who gave his God-given gifts to the world, a person who is very near and dear to my heart. His name is Max DePree. Now, although I never met Max in person, I feel as though I did. In fact, I feel as though I've known him all my life. Next to my parents, his way of being in the world amplified, reinforced, and influenced my own notions about leading and leadership. He wrote and spoke about leadership in a way that just drew me in from that very first encounter. Now, Max wrote and spoke about leadership as an art, not a science, but leadership as an art. And he did so at a time when this was a very, very unusual way to think about leading and leadership. So he was a pioneer and innovator in this area. Max also wrote and spoke about leadership as connecting your voice and touch. Connecting your voice and touch, which I will share about more later in today's show. So, to lift up Max DePree's contribution to the world, today's show is All That Jazz. All That Jazz, celebrating leadership with Max DePree. Now, sometimes we just need to hit the pause button, right? You've heard me say this many, many times before. We just need to hit pause. We need to slow down and breathe. We need to take a seat at the table with someone, pour up a pot of tea, and just listen. We just need to listen to someone else's story. Sometimes that's how we can make a difference in somebody else's life. Poet Muriel Rukeyser reminds us that the world is not made up of atoms. Oh no, it is made up of stories. Let me repeat that. She says, the world is not made up of atoms. It is made up of stories. Just recently, I was leading a class for leaders who work in the public and private sector, and I was invited to teach their very first course of a leadership institute. Now, my course was all about legacy, how we don't wait until the end of our life or wait until we're about ready to retire to think about our legacy. Right? I mean, you know the drill. You've heard me say this before. Legacy is what I talk about on this show every single week. We create our legacy every single moment. That's how we make our lives count. Every single day, 365, 24/7. And this course, my course, for these leaders was all about legacy. And you know what we did? I had them share stories. Yes, indeed. I had them share stories about something or someone near and dear to their hearts. Now, they shared deeply and they shared passionately about why they were called to be leaders. And their stories were positively amazing and absolutely powerful. So today, I want to share Max DePree's story with you. He was a stellar example of what legacy living, make your life count, is all about. Now, before I delve into Max's story, let me remind you, you can learn more about legacy living, make your life count, by visiting the Gloria Burgess website. That's Gloria, B as in boy, URGESS.com. That's the Gloria Burgess website, GloriaBurgess.com. Or you can visit my Facebook page. That's Facebook.com/DR, DR for doctor, GLORIA, BURGESS, PhD /. Now, more about Max DePree. All that jazz. Now, to some of you, Max DePree may be a new name. To many, his name may not be very well known. And yet his footprint is so evident in our lives. On the website that bears Max's name, here are a few of the many things they say about Max and his impact. Every generation has its grouping of distinguished leaders that contributes to shaping their field of expertise. Max DePree is one such leader. He's probably best known for his work as the CEO of Herman Miller Incorporated. Now, Herman Miller was founded by his father, D.J. DePree, who ran the company until the early 1960s. And when his father stepped down, Max and his brother Hugh assumed responsibility for the leadership of the company. During Max's tenure, Herman Miller became one of the most profitable Fortune 500 companies. That's pretty impressive, don't you think? And for more than 10 years in a row, it ranked seventh in terms of total return to investors. But you know what? It's not this amazing achievement that Max stood for. What Max is perhaps most proud of was the manner in which his beliefs were incorporated into the organizational culture of Herman Miller. They instituted something called the Scanlon Plan, Now, in today's world, we would call it a human resources or a human resources plan or program, right? That program encouraged and rewarded employee participation. Max and his brother Hugh built the business on a foundation of trust and integrity. Trust and integrity. Herman Miller worked with some of the greatest designers in the whole world, earning their respect and admiration. Now, this goes a long way in explaining how a company in a little tiny community called Zeeland, Michigan, was able to establish itself as a no-compromise, innovative design firm that produced beautiful, modern furniture. The result of his body of work earned Max DePree a place in Fortune magazine's National Business Hall of Fame. Now, one of the qualities that I love most about Max DePree is that he was intentional. He was intentional about allowing those beliefs that he held and those convictions that he held to shape his approach to life, management, and leadership. In fact, he had an integrated view of all of those, right? And his books reflect his deeply held beliefs and convictions. When you read his books, Leadership is an Art, Leadership Jazz, Leading Without Power, Called to Serve, and Dear Zoe, you can see and experience Max, the human being. And let me tell you something. His understanding of leadership as an art and leadership as jazz says a whole lot about his own aesthetic. It also says a great deal about his understanding of leadership as a journey and about leadership as a lived experience. The other thing I love about Max, and have for mercy, probably well over 30, 35 years, is that Max is not just theorizing about leadership the way a lot of folks do. He's not just theorizing about it. He shares leadership stories and lessons from his direct experience in terms of how he led at Herman Miller Incorporated and how he led and lived in his personal life. Another quality that I love about Max is his commitment to Christianity. If you read and study his books, you will very clearly see that it's his theology more than anything else that shaped who he is and the way he lived. I call it leadership formation. You know, just like in the spiritual world, we talk about spiritual formation, leaders are also formed. They're also shaped before we have something called leadership development, right? Okay, so just as we think about spiritual formation, we also have this thing called leadership formation. I mean, in our early years, all of us are formed and shaped and influenced. That's what we call leadership formation. Now, Max understood that the private and public separation really didn't reflect the person that he wanted to be in the world. People who knew him well will testify that he was the same man whether he was in a board meeting or consulting or speaking to somebody one-on-one. Now, not only was Max a highly respected leader in business, he was also a beloved father, brother, husband, and grandfather. Max was a student of human nature and of life. And it's been said that his integrated vision of what it means to be human in the fullest sense is perhaps the result of his own pursuit of life. An important part of who we are and of our approach to problem solving incorporates Max DePree's concept that belief shapes practice. Belief shapes practice. In other words,